Hey all, post-edit Daniel here. So the end of this video, after the analysis, ends with a discussion on moral psychology and philosophy. And these types of conversations are conversations that I would like to have when I do videos on animated shows and film. A great source for this would be the channel AGoodwinTV, where he just generally talks about life and the way that he engages with it in a way that's very profound, but also through the lens of a very broad scope. And everything that I say is just solely based off of my own experience. In no way is that discussion me trying to foist my own views onto others, and in no way is it me trying to dictate what is the right thing to do versus the wrong thing to do. It is not up for me to say what is right or what is not right. It is not up for me to say what a person should or should not be doing. And I really want to drive that home before engaging with the video, because personally I know that I have a recalcitrance towards authoritative figures trying to dictate what it is that I should or should not be doing, and I would never impose my own worldview onto others. This is more just me expressing them and bringing to light a lot of issues that I don't just face myself, but I find a lot of friends and colleagues also facing. And I hope that by me expressing my views about these subjects to the world, that it is able to help at least one person who might also be struggling with these types of dilemmas. Again, I don't want people to internalize my values as, oh, well, if this is what he believes and this is the kind of person he is. That's not what I'm doing or saying at all. I'm just trying to do what I can, do my part to provide insight from the experiences that I've had and provide that to others who might be facing similar challenges that I have faced, or that my friends and colleagues have faced that they ask me advice on. So I deeply appreciate all of your patience. And if you guys just want to focus on just the reaction and analysis of the video, by all means, you do not have to stick around to the end of it. I'm just saying that it is there if you guys are particularly struggling with themes that are under the umbrella of moral psychology and philosophy and ultimate finding a life's task, etc. So with all of that said, I deeply appreciate all of you being here, and please enjoy the video. Hey, good evening. It's really amazing to have you guys here. My name is Daniel, and I was a professional opera singer, and I did some beatboxing on the side. And tonight we're going to be reacting to VoicePlay's Hellfire. I have not heard this from VoicePlay at all, not even when it was released, so I'm really excited to jump into it. I really enjoy The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think it's a very underrated Disney film, but even beyond Disney, I'm very captivated just from the story itself, the original tale, and the music in Disney's version, I think, is very powerful and very fitting for the story being told. Particularly this song. I think Judge Claude Frollo is a very captivating villain and antagonist for the film and the story itself. So I think this song of Hellfire is it's really beautiful in just how it grapples with our primitive instincts as humans, alongside that coming into contention with our pragmatism and what we hold true to ourselves versus what our instincts tell us that we want. And having a civil war between our hearts and our minds can be very challenging to maneuver through, and I think that this song portrays that struggle very well through the eyes of an extremely self-righteous man. And Claude Frollo is deplorable in every fathomable way, and that's what I really like about him as a villain, is just the fact that he presents himself under this air of righteousness when it's not true righteousness, it's self-righteousness. It's a sanctimonious nature, if you will. He's very imperious in how he imposes and foists his worldview onto others because of the immense power that he carries in his position and status. So I really am just excited to see VoicePlay's take on this very emotionally and mentally impactful song. And yeah, let's just do it. And I'm honestly just so excited to jump into this, and I hope you are too. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
Beata Maria, you know I am a righteous man. Of my virtue I am justly proud. Beata Maria, you know I'm so much purer than the common, vulgar, weak, licentious crowd. Then tell me, Maria, why I see her dancing there, why her smoldering
Chills,
eyes
man.
still scorch my soul. I feel her, I see her, the sun caught in her raven hair is blazing in me out of all control. Burn it. Like fire, hellfire.
Yeah.
There's fire in my skin. This burning desire is
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah.
Woo! To blame. It is the gypsy girl, the witch who set the flame. It's not my fault.
What are these grooves?
It's in God's plan. You made the devil so much stronger than a man.
protect me, Maria.
Oh my gosh.
Siren cast her spell. Don't let her fire sear my flesh and bone.
Destroy Esmeralda,
And let her taste the fires of hell.
or else let her be mine and mine alone.
Oh, dude. Those effects,
Mr.
man.
Frollo, the gypsy, has escaped.
What?
She's
Ooh.
nowhere in the cathedral. I'm afraid she's gone.
But how? Never mind. Get out, you idiot. I'll find her. I'll find her, and I'll find her if I have to burn down all of Paris.
Hellfire, dark fire.
Now, Gypsy, it's your turn.
Choose me, you're tired. Be mine or you will burn.
Oh, yeah. What a ride. Oh my gosh, dude.
But she will be mine, or she
Oh, yeah. What a ride, man. And those grooves were just... Oh my gosh. So many textures. But I have to wait till the end of the video. Gotta make sure. Ooh, I really like that cover art. Oh, man, dude. That was really dope. Things that I really loved about that, just off the top of my head, were there were so many musical themes and styles being incorporated, where Lane's snares and general beats really fit the theme of the styles that they were pushing into, and it almost felt like they were just mixing different genres of music into this one song, which is pretty bizarre to experience for the first time, but also I kind of like it. Like, their transitions between the genres didn't feel seamless, but each of them had their own such distinct style that you could groove and just generally vibe to any of them. And I think it actually worked decently well. And also in that spoken dialogue where Jeff is just sitting in his lower register, I really like how he just didn't push it. It was, "What are you doing here, you idiot? Go get..." Like it didn't feel histrionic in any way over dramatic. It just felt exactly what Frollo is in that moment, which is completely seduced and seductive, but also trying to mask it in an aura of resentment and rage. And Jeff's tone there really just carried that energy through that part, that spoken dialogue. So I'm really excited just to listen to it again in the analysis. So let's just do that.
Beata Maria, you know I am a righteous man.
Just in that beginning where Jeff has that kind of crack in his voice, you know. Something that I like about this in terms of the piece itself is the fact that he's trying to present himself in a way that is humble in front of his Lord. And he cracks his voice in his beginning phrases to portray that humility, but also in the sense musically of his voice is in a higher register, which says that I'm not being dark. Look at my voice being high in the heavens, or kind of creating this more light feeling. But as the song progresses, his voice is just consistently sinking, which is very apt for the piece itself, since the entire piece is him falling, both metaphorically and quite literally. So I really like that choice for the performance piece. But I also did mention this in a Dimash video. I never really cared for that choice, just that creep in through the vocal fry and then vocalizing. It was nothing that musically and solely musically I cared for. But like I said, in the context of the piece, I actually think it works very, very well. And yeah.
Of my virtue I am justly proud. Beata Maria, you know I'm so much purer than.
And I love these dum, dum, dum. It still creates this kind of this light-hearted vibe to his prayer to his Lord. And I really appreciate that.
And the common, vulgar, weak, licentious crowd. Then tell me, Maria.
Yeah, and right there too. You have all these really beautiful major chords just highlighting this very seemingly innocent prayer to his Lord. And then all of a sudden we get these darker overtones where it shifts the focus off of Jeff onto Lane. Not to say that they're not all playing the judge, but the idea of just knowing that there is now a shift in tone by moving from one vocalist to the next with different harmonies to show that we are now beginning our descent of Maria, you know that I'm a righteous man. And then it shifts into almost an accusation or a blaming of Maria, like, why are you tempting me? You know that this isn't fair because the devil is infinitely stronger than man. And now he's becoming a little bit more defensive, and the tones of the piece become darker. And I really appreciate that musically. Let's listen to that again.
No, I'm so much purer than the common, vulgar, weak, licentious crowd. Then tell me, Maria, why I see her dancing there, why her smoldering eyes still scorch my soul.
Aw, chills, dude.
I feel her, I see her, the sun.
Yeah, and Jeff's eyes there. I see her. And you can just feel that intensity of, I actually see her. She's haunting my mind. And his mind controls what he wants to believe, but his heart is demanding another thing. And I love seeing that dichotomy of control between his heart and his mind.
I feel her, I see her, the sun caught in her raven hair is blazing
so beautiful.
out of all control.
And I love that too. Just that vocal effect of control. Just playing a little bit with your passaggio there. It's a nice touch. Feels more like a plea.
Burn it. Like fire, hellfire.
Who's doing those bass notes when Jeff is singing? Is it just Jeff pre-recorded? Like let's listen to this again.
Burn it. Like fire, hellfire.
I have no idea who's doing that. Is it J-Nun? Is it Caesar? I can't hear it.
Burn it. Like fire, hellfire.
Yeah, I have no idea, but just that intensity It's incredible.
There's fire in my skin. This burning desire is turning.
I like Jeff's eyes there, just looking around, trying not to directly see the issue, trying to avoid it, but his eyes are just directly wandering onto his focus, which is Esmeralda in this case. And oh, it's chilling. I love that. Oh, dude, that note.
It's not my fault.
Yeah, and then we're just transitioning into this new groove, this new style. And I really enjoyed this transition. Yeah, momentum is
It's
picking
not
up.
my fault. I'm not to blame. It is the gypsy girl that which you set this flame. It's not my fault. If in God's plan you made the
Yeah, and Caesar does a really great job here of "It's in God's plan," and also playing with his passaggio, but providing an echo alongside speaking his own lines, alongside singing his own lines. It has that same intensity Jeff has, and I really appreciate that all of them are not just here's our main guy with support, it's everybody's the main guy, everybody is support. It feels very unified, and I really appreciate that about a cappella groups.
devil so much stronger.
Good a cappella groups.
If in God's plan you made the devil so much stronger than a man. Protect me, Maria.
Yeah,
Don't
into a new groove too.
let this siren cast her spell. Don't let her fire sear my flesh and bone. Destroy Esmeralda.
And let her taste the fires of
Just the transitions from voice to voice, having this really powerful high overtone inflection with immediately transitioning into Jeff's just sultry yet Machiavellian aesthetic. It's just so it's so polarizing, and I love it. Let's listen to that again.
Let her fire sear my flesh and bone.
And J-Nen has such a beautiful sound. Just needed to comment on that.
Destroy Esmeralda.
and let her taste the fires of hell.
Or else let her be mine and mine alone.
Oh yeah, just those electric guitar sounds too. Just it's such a good touch.
Fires of hell.
Or else let her be mine and mine alone.
Oh yeah.
Minister Frollo the gypsy has escaped.
What?
Yeah,
She's nowhere in the
intensity.
cathedral. I'm afraid she's gone.
But how? Never mind. Get out, you idiot. I'll find her. I'll find her, and I'll find her if I have to burn down all of Paris.
Yeah, just that entire spoken scene there. The entire piece has done such a great job evoking a very powerful intensity throughout all of it. And then all of a sudden during the spoken dialogue where one of Frollo's goons comes in and says, "We've lost the gypsy girl." That's typically the part where Frollo, out of very powerful emotions, like, "What?" But Jeff is just, there's this guile he has. And it's just true Machiavellian nature. He's portraying Frollo in a way that feels more Frollo than the animation did, where he's so much more sinister and cunning and unscrupulous. And you could just see that he's masking his fiery intensity with this collected veil. And I really appreciate that. Just what? Instead of what? Instead of feeling that immediate intensity, it's covered. And I just love how he resides in his darkness, stews in his darkness. Like, let's listen to that all again. But you can still see the intensity burning in his eyes, and I love it.
Minister Frollo the gypsy has escaped.
What?
She's nowhere in the cathedral. I'm afraid she's gone.
But how? Never mind. Get out, you idiot.
Yeah, and Lane's beatboxing is so much fun. I'm sorry for pausing.
What?
She's nowhere in the cathedral. I'm afraid she's gone.
But how? Never mind. Get out, you idiot. I'll find her. I'll find her, and I'll find her
Nice
if I have
growth.
to burn down all of Paris.
Hellfire.
Yeah.
Fire.
Now, gypsy, it's your turn.
Choose me, your pyre.
I love that intensity on pyre. Strong P. Your pyre. Oh yeah, love it.
Choose me, your pyre.
Yeah.
Mine or you will burn.
Oh, dude, that high note is crazy. Listening to that again.
Choose me, your pyre. Be mine or you will burn.
Yeah. Beautiful reverb on Jeff's voice there. Very sultry, very smooth, coming through directly, but in this cathedral-like state, in this open echo chamber. I love it. Yeah. And Lane's snares here just have so much gravitas and weight to them. Oh, it just adds so much power when everyone's voices are very gentle and delicate in this area, to where because you have Lane just really laying it into the beat, where everybody else's voices are so gentle, kind of molding back into that prayer-like state. It's just so great to have this dichotomy, because that's what the entire piece is. It's just a civil war in Frollo's heart and mind, and I really appreciate that. Oh, yeah! Something that I also really liked about that, too, is when he's singing right here, when he's just saying "you'll burn," he's like, this could just be something that he's not thinking about, although I like to think that everything that they're doing in this video is chosen. When he's saying "you will burn" the first time, it's him closing his eyes in the idea that I don't want to see you burn, you can be mine, just I don't want to see you rot in hell, because I'm a very righteous man and I don't want to see anyone rot in hell. But then there's the ending where his eyes are just open and you can see much more of his true nature, his evil, sinister nature. Oh, it's such a great touch visually. It's so great. Yeah, I really loved that. Just everything about it, honestly. It was my comments before on the transition work. Yeah, I'm just gonna take that back, because everything actually did flow through pretty smooth and I really liked all of the styles of it. That was so good. That was so good. I really enjoyed that. So something that I actually want to talk on, which isn't centered around music, but it is relevant to the themes of the piece, where there is a book called The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, I believe. And he has his doctorate in psychology, specifically with an emphasis on moral psychology and philosophy. And one of the ideas that he talks about in his book is the idea that we are an elephant and a rider, where the elephant is our heart, our emotions, and the rider, the person riding the elephant, is our pragmatism, our minds, our ability to critically think and rationalize things. So the reason why he uses an elephant and not a horse is because an elephant is much larger and much more difficult to control. So, not to say that a horse isn't, but much more so. And the reasoning behind that is the idea that being emotionally driven creatures is impossible to just completely override in your mind. And what I mean by that is you can interpret it as Plato's philosophy, which is the mind rules all and your mind needs to overcome emotion or resist any kind of materialistic temptation, practice asceticism, things like that, which definitely has its own values for sure. But there's also other schools of thought where you can have Thomas Jefferson's view, say, where he believed that both the mind and the heart are two empires struggling over control of each other, where they both have equal power, whereas Plato's was the mind has all the power. And this particular philosophy, Jonathan's philosophy, is where we have impulses, we have desires and urges, and when our elephant decides to march down a specific path, decides to follow an impulse or follow an urge or something that the body craves, I'll see this a lot in people that don't practice asceticism, which is several people in the world. I want to say at least the majority. And the idea of it is that the elephant goes down that path and the rider looks ahead and tries to clear the way for the elephant instead of trying to maneuver the elephant out of the way of potential danger. So the key takeaways of that passage are something along the lines of, at least the way that I've internalized it, is it's not futile to go against your instincts or against your emotions, but it is good to reflect on, why is it that I crave this? It's important to be aware of those sensations, those feelings, and to recognize them as real and legitimate. Because if you just suppress them, you're ultimately damaging your psyche alongside your body for not meeting your own expectations, your own subconscious desires. So to be able to bring these thoughts and these feelings to light, regardless of how deplorable they might seem or how dark they are, if you're able to address them in a way that's sensitive to your own needs, but also in a way that is honest, direct, and actionable in terms of being able to construct real actionable steps in either getting out of that kind of impulse or being able to communicate directly with your elephant and say, I understand that this is what you want, but this is the path that we must traverse down because this other path is going to lead us to destruction. So being able to communicate directly with your elephant alongside being able to communicate with other people's elephants, which is a skill that is more spoken about in Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. You're able to communicate with people's elephants and able to find ways to defend yourself against others who might be more Machiavellian and more conniving to foist their own sanctimonious nature onto you. So ultimately, the point of this is that I don't think Claude Frollo is wrong for feeling his feelings and addressing them in a way that's real to him through his very religious lens. But the actions he takes, which does follow suit with his imperious nature and sanctimonious nature, that is what ultimately leads to his destruction. And I think that ultimately it's a tragedy, but a tragedy that needed to happen for the sake of the film and for everything that he decided to do for himself and push on to others, which I really think is wrong. I think everybody needs to have the opportunity to think for themselves and not for the benefit of solely the group that they heavily identify their ego or self-image to. So with all of that said, to be able to value your own sense of autonomy and create true morals and philosophies and ethics structured around your own experience and your own wisdom that you've cultivated throughout your life, and taking inspiration from multiple sources of wisdom, whether it be religious or taking knowledge that you've learned through the world and exposing it to the world, hence transforming that knowledge into wisdom. However it is that you accumulate wisdom and structure that into a strong set of ethics and principles that you can live your life by, that ultimately I think is the mark of someone who is capable of going out into the world and recognizing what the world is, which is not trying to make an attempt to proselytize others and shape the world in a way that you think is correct, but more following a Buddhist mentality of this is what the world is, and it is your responsibility as a human being of the world to exist in it, find the beauty in it, and contribute to the beauty of it. But to each their own. Everybody has their own view on the world. This is just mine. And I'm not trying to foist my own worldview onto others. This is just how I choose to engage with the world. And I try to engage with the world in a way that does recognize the full beauty and potential of humanity, that does see humanity as an overall net good, that sees humanity's potential as constantly expanding and growing, and seeing the incredible amount of compassion and respect that we are not only capable of giving to ourselves, but each other, to our environment, to our livelihoods. And the media does a very, very good job of painting terrible views of humanity and the real devastation of what human nature is capable of. But even then, if you're able to even look past humanity's darkness and the evils that we commit, I think it's important to recognize that we are human beings, and human beings are capable of producing great evil just as much as we are capable of producing some of the world's greatest goods. And as someone who has wronged and has hurt many people throughout his life, not intentionally, but through just absent-mindedness and a complete lack of self-awareness, I've recognized that these are deep insecurities of mine. Being absent-minded and harming others is something that I never ever wanted to do. I was very much a people pleaser several years ago, and it wasn't until I started structuring my life and becoming more disciplined and started really recognizing what it is that I wanted out of life. And I was able to come to that conclusion through another book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and he describes what a life's task is, and I was able to structure my own life's task, which is to show unconditional compassion towards all people, show a fundamental human respect towards all people. Not to say that, you know, you immediately have my respect when you engage with me, because respect, I still believe, must be earned. But to say, I would never go out of my way to say that you are anything more or anything less than a human being. And I would never call you a monster just as much as I would never call you a god amongst men. And I think when we hyperfixate on things like titles or labels and say, this person is obviously the best, or this person is just pure evil, pure monster, just no redeeming qualities, that's categorizing people without any sense of nuance. I truly believe that there are people out there in the world who do wish to do truly horrible things to others, but that doesn't mean to say that they're not at least capable of producing a true good for the common good, or contribute something of genuine value for others, contribute some act of selflessness in a critical moment, let's say. Very true to seeing people portrayed in a very righteous and a very positive light, and to say that those people are not capable of producing evil or producing something of a diabolical nature. You know, we're all human beings. We're all capable of goods and evils. So it's just important to recognize that we're not putting each other up on pedestals, that we are treating each other with respect and dignity and kindness, but also doing that from a position of strength, not presenting ourselves as a victim or very frail or very weak, that we don't want other people to attack us because of our meekness. I think that's a very pathetic way to engage with life, but rather present your strength, present what it is that you've accumulated for yourself, what you've amassed for yourself, and being able to take that into the world and show kindness. I believe it was either Sun Tzu or just some ancient philosopher who had said, I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener on a battlefield, insinuating that it's best to have the skill set necessary, not just to physically defend yourself, but to be able to have strength and power when engaging with delicate activities such as gardening, to be able to observe true kindness and true compassion from a position of strength. And I really appreciate that philosophy. And I think an animated figure that portrays that philosophy the best would be Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, where he is an incredible master. Everything he talks about comes from a position of strength, comes from a position of immense training, practice, and focus. And he still chooses to participate with others, participate in not just his life, but other people's lives in a way that is actually compassionate and kind and giving, but not sacrificing his own values or virtues in the process. He's not meek, and you never get that impression throughout any part in the series. And that's what I really, really admire about him. And he really holds up to that philosophy very well. Thank you all so much for watching this very extended reaction to VoicePlay's Hellfire. It wasn't exactly what I had in mind when I went into this, but here we are. But anywho, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Have a great evening, everyone.